Gary Esmond, Senior Vice President of Sales for Rilco Manufacturing. This is a short video showing how to install our pre-insulated CalSeal hot service pipe supports. First thing that needs to be considered is that you have your personnel protection as required by your company, as well as any to go through any safety precautions that you might foresee on installing these supports. Rilco has submitted a full set of installation instructions. It's a multi-page document, and it has photographs, drawings, and such to assist and to actually back up what I'm saying in this video. Additionally, we've submitted a full set of drawings, and there will be a note page on the first page of the sets of drawings, and that gives you tolerances, weld sizes, and some other important notes. The next page will be the drawing that actually shows how the mark numbers are derived and actually depicts a picture of the pipe support. The following page will have a list of all the data on the pipe support, and a couple of main points to point out is our Rilco mark number, and that should match what's in the purchase order. And if you scroll over to the side, the Belleville washer data. So it will tell you how many Belleville washers, which are conical washers, we'll be showing those later in the video. It'll tell you how many per bolt. It'll also tell you the height for installation, which I'll also show. So those are very important parts of the drawing for reference. Another reference item that we can provide is on the computer. So Rilco's project management, when requested, can give you a computer file that's a master file of all the items purchased, and it can be updated as needed. And so this list basically will give you every item as purchased. It'll also tell you quantities that shipped. It'll have our mark number on it. It'll have your inspection release number when they were inspected at our facility. It'll have the inspection date, the actual ship date. It'll have the shipment number, and more importantly, the crate number. So if you were to filter one of these model numbers by a specific tag that you're looking for to install in the field, in this case, these were all shipped on shipment 19 in crates 2 and 3, and that will tell you how to find those particular items that you might be looking for. So this file can be real helpful. It will also give you, for each support, again, the Belleville washer quantity per bolt and the washer install height per bolt. Now, this isn't always supplied. You may need to request it of the owner engineering company, and we'll be happy to provide that master list. So Rilco ships to Canada in banded wooden crates. All these crates have the ISPM 15 number, which says that all the wood was heat treated per international codes. The crates are banded. They also will have the ship to information. Additionally, they'll have the packing list on the outside and the inside of the crate. They'll be wrapped in plastic, but the plastic's not sealed. When we bond the supports, the adhesive cures, but we want it to continue curing while it's in transport, so we're not sealing the crates. We are in a very humid climate, and they would actually build up moisture, and we actually want the crates to breathe. However, when you take supports out, you need to cover them up just to shed water and snow from rain and snow. These crates are stacked. I would not advise to stack, because most likely you'll need support on the bottom level of the bottom crate. If you can provide access such to where you have crates lined up, where you have top access and front long side access, then it's easy to pull a fork with a pallet on it and slide the support right out that you need. If you have them too crowded and you don't have access to the front, you'll have to pick them out of the top. And again, these are in multiple layers with plywood in between, so it'll be very difficult to get out. You want to lay these out where you have access to the top and one front side. And again, take supports out, please cover them up, and I'll explain that a little bit more in the next segment. So all Rilco supports have a a Mylar tag on them, and we also paint mark the mark number on the support. So even if the tag peels off, you should be able to identify this. In addition, we put stickers on the side. This is for quality control. Basically, these numbers don't mean anything. They just need to match, and they need to be on the same side. Basically, what these stickers do, when you take the top off, it ensures that you're not putting the top from another one that might not fit as well as these on the same support. So you want to put the top and bottom that were manufactured together, so they'll have a random number that must match, and also be on the same side of the support, so you're not turning it 180 degrees. You're installing it as it was built. Again, these mark numbers, they'll tie into the drawings, and they're really very easy to install. There's just a couple of important things to remember when installing them. First, for this project, we made guides and resting sliding supports and guided supports. This is a resting support, and it'll have a rounded base, and it'll have no guides. There'll be zero welding on this support, which is one of the benefits. Another benefit is when you install this support, you've installed the insulation and jacket as well. So butting up line insulation, if this were your mineral wool, it would butt right up to the support. The top would go on. You overlap your jacket, run a band, and that's all you have to do to tie into your line insulation. No caulking or anything like that. The guided support's the same thing. The difference is the base will be manufactured a little different. It'll have stainless steel on the side, and it'll have these guide members that weld onto your pipe rack. So if this sheet metal is let's say your pipe rack, you will center the support on the pipe rack. It's not offset, it's centered on the pipe rack, and you'll install these guides as per the drawing and the welds as per the drawing. So that's the only welding on the guides, on the guide supports. Inside the supports, you'll have some structural material. It's a very high density calcium silicate, and that's what's carrying your loads and giving you clamping force on the pipe support. Again, this one doesn't have it, but supports and guides are different because the guides have more of this material around the sides to handle lateral loads that you would have on guides. So very important that a mark number, if it's a resting, then it doesn't have a guide. If it's a guided support, then it's a unique support with the guides that came with it. So, installing our supports, a couple of things. One, they're going to seem larger than what you're used to if you're used to welded or clamped directly to pipe type supports, because they're manufactured outside the insulation, so that gives you a larger diameter. However, installing them is very easy. They just can seem a little bulky until you get used to them. It's a piece of calcil here. You can damage calcil. Minor damages like this aren't going to cause a negative effect. A big crack through it could, but if you can see if you can damage it pretty good if you work it over. So please take caution and care with the calcium silicate on the support. On the supports, there's typically 6 bolts on most of these supports. These supports are going to be up to maybe 1.25 meters long, or even shorter. Some of these are going to be pretty heavy. Even the top piece of steel that you'll be handling on a 36 by 4, that's going to be pretty good size diameter and long plate. So we'll address how to lift those in just a moment. As far as the bolting, Rilco pre-ships the supports with some PVC pipe in here. This is just to protect the support during transport. These are to be discarded. So I'll explain a couple of things about the bolting. Typically all the bolting is done from the bottom. So when Rilco manufactures these supports, we manufacture them with these conical or Belleville washers. They're not flat washers like this one. They actually are higher in the center, and so we stack them in pairs with the low center and a high center, and that gives you a spring rate and spring height, so that when the pipe expands, when it heats up, we can maintain a clamping force on the pipe support during that process. To unassemble, take the nuts and one washer from the bottom, pull the bolts up. They should have the correct number of Belleville washers. And one important thing, we want the Bellevilles to slide on a smooth surface. So our bolts on the top have shorter threads than the bottom. So on the top, what we want to do is, and it should be done at the factory, but you want to confirm it, that the bolts are screwed to the end of the thread, or the nuts are screwed to the end of the threads, and the other nut, the two nuts are jammed together to lock them. That ensures these Belvilles won't slide on threads and hang up. So when you take these off, the best thing to do is, if you have a little box or bucket, is to pull them out so you don't have Belville washers coming apart. Undo them from the bottom, drop them in the bucket upside down. So I'll take a couple of these off. Bolts, for the most part, out. Put them in a bucket upside down or a box. And remove the PVC. They typically are on the outside bolts, all four. And these can be discarded. So to uninstall the support, this steel needs to be lifted off the support. Now, some of these larger sizes, you may want to put an eye bolt with a nut on diagonal bolts or pipes and run a strap through it, and you can lift these up using lifting equipment. Some of these could get up to a couple hundred pounds. So you certainly don't want to do that by hand. And also keep in mind, even on small ones, there's a pinch point here. So you want to be careful. So when you remove this top, this should be a bonded assembly, the top half, and again the cow seal can be brittle, and even the top will have some structural inserts embedded in the insulation. Set this aside carefully. The next step is when you set your pipe in. You want to make sure they're aligned so you're not tearing up the cow seal. And you set the pipe in, and then reverse what you've already done. So you want to put the jacket on, remember to look for the number so that it's on the same side of the support and that it has the same number. And again, it's a random number just to ensure that you use the same ones. You want to make sure the jacket overlaps to shed water. Tucked on the top is on the outside of the bottom. And then the top plate gets set down on the support. This distance here is not critical, but you want to try to keep it pretty even so your pipe tubes line up square to each other. Drop your bolts in. Because you took it apart from the bottom, you don't have Belville washers flying around. So you have less chance of losing them in the mud, water, snow. So you drop your bolts back in. And then the next step would be to put your one flat washer and nuts on the bottom. You may see little notches here. This is so you don't have a little swimming pool here. This is just to drain any water that might go in this crack here. So when you tighten these up, like you would tighten a wheel on an automobile, tighten diagonally, snug them. You're basically just snugging them up at first, just to make sure your plate is even with them, as even as possible, with them all snugged up. So you'll snug all six up, and saying that's happened at that point, then Rillco has provided tools that give you the install height. Now, this install height is to be measured from between these flat washers. So it's the distance between this flat washer and this flat washer on the inside. If you do not have the tools, that can be measured. This case is 16 millimeters. Again, the drawings reference that, and so will that computer sheet. So the way the tool works, kind of like a spark plug or points gap tool, you'll put them in here, and if you have a impact wrench, or even if you do it manually, you tighten up until the tool is not loose, but you can slide it out. So you want it snug in there, you don't want it moving up and down or twisting, and you want to be able to slide it out, and then you've installed it at the correct install height. When that pipe heats up, these washers will compress, and that gives you the relief on the support to ensure that the expanded pipe will have a certain clamping force the support will on the pipe. So very easy. You'll be provided a few sets of these tools of all the sizes needed for the project, and kind of like a keychain, you'll have a set of tools. The drawing will tell you which one. If you want to pre-mark with a paint marker the install height for each one, that's something that can be done in advance with one person going through the drawings, so you don't have to go back and check the drawings. So again, you'll tighten these up with your impact wrench diagonally and then in the center, and then double check the install height is correct. You'll come back and put the second nut on, jam the nut on the bottom, and then you've installed the support, you've installed the insulation, the jacket. Again, you just butt your insulation up to this, you overlap your jacket, run one band, and you can move to the other side of the support. We've had customers install these once the support's on site and set up, a 24-inch support with 2 guys in about 15 minutes. And that's compared to welding and spending 1 to 3 hours trying to insulate and jacket around a gusseted and ribbed welded support. So it's a time saver. Again, a couple of the big things are be careful with the calcium silicate, watch out for your safety pinch points, lift if you need to with eye bolts and a lifting device, and ensure that you've tightened to the install height. If it's a guide, this is when you'd come back and a welder would come and weld the guides as per the spacing shown on the drawing and the weld symbols on the drawing. If you have any questions, we're going to have a picture on this video of my business card, and you're more than welcome to call me at any time. Additionally, when these first supports get to the field, I'll be scheduling a trip to actually physically train you. We'll take a short piece of pipe, one support, if it's a large one, some equipment to do the lifting, and then we can go through this process with your crew and answer any questions. Thank you very much.